Hello and Merry Christmas to you all. Yes, this is coming out at 8 p.m. On Christmas Day, but we are sat here actually recording this on Sunday, a week and a half beforehand. So if any breaking news has happened between now and then obviously, sorry, we're not going to talk about it tonight. But yes, so Merry Christmas, everybody. We are dedicated to bringing you every Tuesday a show, so there'll be another recording that will come out on New Year's Day as well. So do check back here next Tuesday at 8 p.m. as always. And the chat on the side, yep, you can all chat together if you're watching it live together, or you can give us comments down below. And joining me this evening, Merry Christmas, Ashwin.
Hello, everybody. Yes, Merry Christmas. Because this is pre-recorded, I don't know if I'll be naughty or nice, so I can't tell you what I got, or if I got anything.
And Merry Christmas, Stephen.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Paul, and to all the viewers out there.
And cheers, everybody. Little Christmas tipple. Oh, dear. So, what we're going to talk about...
Just before, hang on. Good of Steve to put his Christmas curtains up and behind him too.
It is, absolutely. It's being very festive. None of us have put Christmas hats on or any tinsel or green or anything like that, but hey, we should have done. Never mind. The vast expense that's been spent on this to make this a Christmas edition is amazing. You'll be surprised. So let's talk about law changes. One of the things that happened over November was we had the referees took a bit of flack, or quite a lot of flack actually, for some of the decisions they made during that. And part of that has come down to a couple of things. One of which is that every time they want to change the laws, they just add a new law in, because if they just think the style of play isn't exciting enough, or if they think there are injuries. And so hence, what I think they need to do actually is think about maybe stripping back and starting again with some of these laws. And hence we're going to go pretty radical here on how we could make the game, A, easier to officiate, B, lead to more attacking and skillful rugby, and we also obviously need to look at what unintended consequences we might bring along with that. And so I'm going to throw out there, guys, my first idea here. Tries should be worth 0 points. Am I totally mad, or is there some justification behind this one?
Well, I've known you for a little bit. Steve's known you a little bit less than I have. We know you're mad anyway. and initially when you threw this one at me a few weeks ago when we were just having conversation, I think it might have been, and I thought, yeah, sort of like, but yeah, Paul's lost the plot. But to be fair, once you actually sort of, as you explained it to me, and you understand the how it would, the context of it, it does actually have merit.
Wow, I have merit in my thoughts. Fantastic. So to add a bit of that context before we go over to Stephen, the idea here is that all goal kicks will be worth 1 point, be that a conversion, a drop goal, or a penalty. And what we're doing here is we're reverting back to some of the original laws. A try is called a try because it gave you the opportunity to try for a goal. And so this is going back to what real rugby used to be about. None of this newfangled stuff. And I guess one of the things you'd probably say to it is then, but Paul, if penalties are worth as much as a conversion, surely we're just going to have people kicking lots of goals. Well, the idea here is that because penalties would become worth so much, teams just wouldn't infringe, and therefore the game would be cleaner and it'd be easier to officiate. Stephen, am I heading right down the right route here, or is this, or am I just leading it to a kickfest?
Well, Ashwin's known you for a short time, a longer time. I've known you for a short time, and I still think you're doing some serious drugs at the moment, Paul. Wow, you'd have to be a heck of a salesman to pitch this one to the we'd have to pitch this to the people who love this particular game. I can see the merits and behind what you're actually saying, and that's to really stop the amount of infringements that the game has got. They've come usually if you get a good international game of rugby, I'm thinking you get around about a dozen penalties. in the game is probably a fair. When you start
You'd
going
probably
up
say average.
above the 18 to 20 mark, there's a lot of penalties. Hence, the yellow cards have been brought in for repeated infringements. And it's got a bit of merit, Paul, but it'd be a very, very hard sell.
Yeah.
So part of the whilst one of the things I was listening to, and I think it was on the Egg Chasers podcast a week or two ago, and they were basically saying that what players do if you're looking at teams like Saracens and teams like England now, as they've had and Harlequins, teams that have had Saracens defence coaches going through them, is that basically the team is offside every single play on the grounds that the referee can't blow every single breakdown, and so they therefore infringe the whole time, and just so we could end up with 20, 30 penalties a game if everything was blown up. But this would kind of remove some of that niggle, or some of that would slow down that line speed, give attacking players more time to play.
Look. The thing is that we've sat in the grounds, stands in the ground. You don't really pick it up on TV as much as you do when you're watching it at the grounds. We know that the backlines are offside every time. This nonsensical thing that there'd just be penalties every time if the referee started to call up offside is an absolute load of rubbish. Because it's just like if the rugby players are that thick that they're getting penalised 2 or 3 times in the first 5 minutes for being offside, that they don't take a step back, then keep penalising them. It's like that's in society ourselves we say, correction doesn't work, punishment doesn't work. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
I've always felt that offside penalties are so stupid. There's actually no real need for them. It's actually a real discipline thing. Players, just rushing out of that line a little bit quicker is not going to make. They often say good defences is how tight the chain is, and if the chain remains straight, then it shouldn't be a problem. It bugs the heck out of me. They are such needless penalties under the rules. We as viewers know that interpretation of the law, and the players should even understand it more.
Yeah, look, that is one game stays in my head really well in terms of what Steve's just alluded to. It was a Blues Stormers game at North Harbour. It was when the Blues haven't been anything great for a long time, so it wasn't like it was back when they were a fantastic team. But they were basically in the lead by 2 points. Time's up on the clock. Stormers with the ball on the 40-metre line, and you could visibly see the Blues were at least half a metre behind the ruck. They were half a metre behind the ruck. The Stormers went nowhere, and the Blues managed to do that while still maintaining a defensive line half a metre behind the ruck. So basically, it shows that it can be done, and it basically shows that the referees need to penalise the teams more. And it's just like, as fans, we can either say we want to see a game of I don't know what because the rules aren't being adhered to, or the laws, I should say, aren't being adhered to, or as fans, we can say, no, fair cop, they're infringing and they're getting penalised.
Well, I think a similar game, I don't know if Ted was involved with the Blues at that point, because I know he did some work with JK, but when he was, one of the things I saw this year when Auckland, it was apparent when Auckland played Wellington, and that their line speed was not particularly fast, but they came together. They came up together. Players didn't drift in. They stayed on their man. They trusted the inside man to take his man. They trusted the outside man to take his man, and they stayed on their men. And it works absolutely brilliantly because there was a very high element of trust, but it wasn't particularly high line speed, which I found interesting, because the mantra you hear from a lot of defence coaches now is line speed, get off the floor, and that appears to be basically the whole premise of defence from a lot of from a basic point of view. But so it was interesting to see that Auckland weren't doing that. They were using trust rather than line speed. as their big thing.
It would be really interesting to get some stats on penalties given away, certain infractions, just to see what number of penalties that teams give away via offsides. And I think it would actually throw out some pretty interesting reading.
I think even more to that, Steve, is I think the article that Paul alluded to is that just do an analysis on games and see how often the defensive side is actually offside. Hey, how about even this? How often is the offensive team offside? Because how many times do you see guys standing around the ruck who aren't part of the ruck standing in front of the halfback and acting as a shepherd basically, but he's attached to the ruck when he really isn't. All those sorts of things, if they start to ping him, you wouldn't have to go to a 0-point try. Now look, we're going to have to put up with a bit of pain in terms of, they're blowing too many penalties. So be it. I don't mind.
The other problem there is also consistency around that kind of thing, because you don't know, because we especially saw it during November, where a whole bunch of stuff was let go. During the November internationals that has not been let go during the European domestic season, and a lot of and it confused a lot of commentators and a lot of players as well as to what was and what wasn't being blown, because
what we've seen creep in. What we've seen creep in to rugby now is what happened in the other oval ball code in Australia when they have these 3 games between their states in the middle of the year, where the rules that they play for in their normal competition are just thrown out the window because they want to be a much more of a spectacle. And that's absolutely. Look, I totally agreed with a lot of the comments that came out around the autumn internationals, and the fact is that, hang on, why aren't they applying these rules? And it's 100% correct, they aren't. And you have to wonder if you can't, being, I suppose, cynical. Is it a directive? How can it not be a directive? It's so obvious.
No, there was definitely a directive to the international referees before the November internationals. Absolutely.
And so the directive being?
Well, the directive was actually to not allow to use the TMO as much. And this is a topic we will have talked about last week, when or on Tuesday. But yeah, there was a directive around about the use of the TMO. Which led to, we'll have talked about that last week, so we'll come back to that one. We'll talk about it on Tuesday. You guys will watch it last Tuesday.
So basically what Paul's saying is that if you're watching this now, just go back into YouTube, find the Tuesday show, see that, and then come back.
Yes, we'll have a whole, probably about 20 minutes to half an hour on just on how the difference refereeing in the November thing. So, Ashwin, you had one for us.
Look, just before we move on, I will, because we're fantastic at digressing. Yeah, we are obviously getting into watching a lot more women's rugby. I've watched a bit with the Sevens today as well. That's been on in New Zealand with the National Sevens tournament. And how much cleaner, and I don't mean mud, but how much cleaner is the women's game? They don't go around doing cynical offending like the men do they?
No, I guess it's probably just testosterone at the end of the day. Men being men, they just want to be a little bit more physical. Not that the women's game is any less physical, but I get what you mean. They just seem to be a little bit more smart around the breakdown, where some of the men just can't seem to help themselves. Even when a referee is telling you, no, don't touch them, you're out of the ruck. One thing I do like officials doing, saying that you've missed. I don't know what part of that you don't understand when the official has actually told you, but you still try to pilfer that ball.
Yep. Look, I mean, in the Sevens game,
is it testosterone or is it professionalism? Are we seeing more kind of professional fouls within the men's game, and that's something that as the women become more professional, get paid get paid more. There's more money in the game. The ante rises up because of the extra money, and therefore we'll see more cynical play.
You know what? Something we spoke about last week was when a team is under advantage, and then you see almost a double or a triple. You see about 3 other infractions even past the main one. That I believe is really cynical. The players already know it's an advantage. You don't actually have to cheat again. To me, that's almost an automatic yellow card, regardless of how many cards have been dished out. Players have got to just understand. Once you're under one warning, what part am I missing?
Yeah. Look, one thing that is sort of even clearer when you watch the sevens, because obviously the extra space, is that in the women's game, they don't lie around in the ruck, trying to hold that ball in illegally, or if they do release the players and then try to go in for the grab, as opposed to, I did release this. It's like, no, you didn't, sort of thing with the men's game. So it becomes even more obvious when you're watching the sevens, a women's sevens game versus a men's sevens game or a men's 15 game, and the fact that they really are less likely to do that sort of, whether it's cynical or whether just pushing the envelope type scenario, type thing. And here's another interesting thing, somebody to go around and see penalties in a women's game versus a men's game and see what the numbers look like on average.
Wow. That is that is definitely an interesting stat to look at. What I suppose all we can say is the women are fast learners.
We've always been naughty boys, haven't we?
And yeah, we have actually. So, to the back of the room.
Yeah, go stand in the corner.
It's crazy, but even if you talk about, even dare I say it, things that happen off the field as well. We hear about all these incidents that professional sportsmen, not just rugby players, footballers, league players, get into. How often do you hear about female teams getting into trouble? Netball teams, rugby teams.
And it's not like they don't have alcohol and it's not like they don't have alcohol because I can't remember what I was watching and they are interviewed and it's like, we're going to go off and have a few wines to celebrate. But it's just like, so they're still having alcohol, but it's not, affecting them as much as us naughty men again.
Dearie me. Generally, we were dragged to the front of the class so we could get seen more. Getting sent back to the class was actually a good thing because you could get away with it in the class.
It's more young MC in my time. It's off to the principal's office you go.
Bend over, whack, and anyway, Ashwin, you had another old. Since that's one, 0 points for tries is an old bringing back the old laws. Sorry, you had an old law that you thought might be worth bringing back.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I don't understand what happened to it, where it went. The law itself, I thought was a good law, but it's actually a fantastic tactic as a team as well. And the fact that you're binding with another member of your team before you can enter a ruck. So you can't, makes it very difficult to enter on an angle. It also reduces the collision impact. Obviously people are going to say, but there's 2 people going at an individual that's over a ball. It's like, yes, but to join with somebody, you actually have to slow down and bind. So the weight might be increased, but because of the speed into the ruck will be reduced. That's simple physics. The force in newtons will be less going through.
Yeah, they tend to do it quite well closer in, like the close physical exchanges in sort of channel 1, where guys are pretty much picking and going, and your cleaners are there straight away. Or usually you have that guy who's almost like a sealer, if you know what I mean, who will basically drive through the tackle player. I suppose the only thing is, what happens when the play goes wider and you've got one player who's actually got to that breakdown? He's the first cleaner.
He's got to wait.
He's got to wait.
That makes competition for the ball, right? But that makes competition for the ball then. because you can't enter the ruck because you haven't bound. You got why is that any different to our day apart from that we had a heavy leather ball?
Yeah,
So the ball didn't go so wide so quickly.
I guess players.
But could you go in and try and go for the ball? So you could have two players trying to go for the ball, but not allowed to push each other.
Exactly. You could go in for the ball, but you can't clean out because you haven't bound. You're not bound. Unless there's a ruck form because there's two players from the opposition.
I can see a couple of things here. One, as you say, it slows down people entering the ruck, which would be a player safety thing. It would mean because you can't commit one person to a ruck, you have to commit two. So from a defensive point of view, you would actually have less people standing up in the defensive line and create more space. But this, as Stephen points out, when you have a tackle player out on the wing, out wide, how are you going to get that second? How are you going to have that second player available to even form a ruck? And
that's part of your game plan, though, isn't it? That's part of your game plan. So you got to think about. I mean, so if you think about the early days when you could actually pick up the ball from any, before they said you can't go side of the ruck, you had to enter through the gate. They had to change game plans. They're changing the game, the way that you play the game all the time. I suppose it'd be interesting to go back and watch some videos, just to see how it was done in the old days. But, at the end of the day, the ball went wide back in the old days too.
I can't remember this ever being a law. It's even when I was playing as a kid, I'm sure we didn't have this as a law for us.
Yep, no, you had. It wasn't so much a law. It was just seen as a more effective way of actually driving through a ruck. If you bound on somebody, and you went through, it's way easier to clean through that ruck where doing it individually. Sometimes you actually see it. The ruck's almost performed, and you see guys trying to bash into that ruck to disrupt it, but really they're having no real effect. And most of the good counter rucking actually comes from guys that have all gone in together. Sometimes they're all standing around watching, and I'm thinking to myself, why don't you just grab a couple of guys and just clean through? Because you're not, as long as you stay on your feet, you're actually not doing anything illegal.
Yeah, and it's actually an interesting thing that becomes a bit dangerous if you bind and then you start going in and going down. So, your technique and your practice is going to be going in and actually going up in the motion as you clean out, sort of thing, when you join with somebody. So, I just sort of think it's something that used to be so effective. So, it might not have been a law, but it's going to slow down that impact. It's actually going to be a softer impact at the ruck, at the collision point.
The law that is there that basically just isn't enforced now is that you have to bind onto a ruck, whereas now players just throw themselves in and just bash people out of the way. They're not actually binding, and so that to me is a more important one. Actually, is getting players to have to bind to join a ruck, and that way you can't really come in at any pace and bash into somebody because you have to grab them. Which you used to have to do. I'm not convinced by this one as being a law, Ashwin. We might actually get through this and have us not agree on any laws.
Well,
that's why we're fans.
There is one I want to touch on, and that's unintentional obstruction. That's when two of the, like if I'm the ball carrier and I run into my own player accidentally, and there's nobody else, an opposition player in front of them, to me, play on.
Play on.
It's crazy. The less times we can actually stop the game and keep it moving is a hang of a lot better to me.
Yep.
Well, aren't they effectively doing that now? Because I've seen that plenty of times. Gone. That to me looks like unintentional offside, but because there's no one actually, there's no other players. No other opposition players have been impacted by or obstructed. They let them play on, but because I think there's quite a few unintentional offsides that happen.
You're not wrong, Paul, but it doesn't happen that often. For my mind, I sort of think the number of times I remember watching it, and you sort of think there's no impact to the game, just play on, and they're normally it's normally an accidental offside that occurs. and they call a scrum up, and it's just like, well, actually, no, the game hasn't been impacted. Just play on. It's just like, but what happens is as soon as the attacking team, touches a player of their own in front, the defensive team goes, "Oh, ref," and the referee goes, "Oh, yeah, accidental offside scrum."
Yeah,
or worst case penalty.
That one that tends to happen more. Yeah, again with your pick and goes where it's close in, where you get your accidental offsides further away, further out on the pitch, and you see them bump into each other and go, look, they've kicked it downfield. One of you's picked it up, the other one's run into him by accident. There's no one within 5 or 10 metres. Then they don't blow it up and they let it play on. Yep. Where they could actually blow it up if they wanted to, as well.
Yep. Or a classic case of that would be when a player goes in the air and he's got a man in front of him and he's, obviously he goes up over his own man and takes the ball. If technically he's accidentally offside, but they don't call it.
Yeah, it's the one of kind of like, you don't have to get out of the way of players.
So what we're probably looking for more there is more consistencies from referee. Like you say, Paul, I think there are referees that are reading that, hey, nothing in there. It's a little bit like the referees. I mean, so one thing I'm loving that referees are basically doing now is when halfbacks who try to milk penalties at the back of the ruck, or, if there's a player lying there and the referees are saying, listen, the ball's available. You even as a viewer, you can tell when a player, it's taken him too long to fish it out. That guy just hasn't moved away quick enough. But it's really fantastic that the referees are saying, no, you're trying to milk a penalty. The ball, I can see the ball. It's clear. It's there. It's available. I think the referees are making an effort to keep the game moving in that respect.
It happened in the NPC this year, and I noticed in one of the semi-finals or just in the last rounds sort of thing. And the referee basically he says, no, you're milking it. Just play it. As you say, it just comes back to consistency, though, because then you watch the next game and it's just like, oh, hang on. The last time the guy said, just play it, it's available, and it's just like this ref goes and blows it up for whatever infringement. And so I suppose it just comes back to that consistency of making sure the message is getting through across the panel to say, hey, this is how we're going to do it.
I think the instance the game you're talking about from memory, he tried to milk a bunch, and then had one where he did actually get impeded, but it still the whistle still didn't go his way because basically he'd already set in the mind of the ref that he was trying to milk, and therefore the ref decided, no, you're clearly trying to milk again, when actually he probably wasn't. And there's the lesson to players: don't ask for penalties that don't really exist, because when you do get one that doesn't really exist, the ref's going to go, nah, you've been crying wolf too often. That isn't, you haven't really been impeded. But,
and you're going to have a Chicken Little moment.
Yeah. Okay.
The sky's falling in. Nobody.
No.
Steve got it. I sort of shake of the head with Steve, so he got it.
Most of the rules are pretty simple. As I say, if you're on the ground, you're out of the game. If you touch somebody in the air, it's an infringement. All we do ask for, though, is clarity. Sometimes we've seen a couple of penalties and cards where, when you see two guys in the air, looking in the air at the same time, contesting a ball, to me that's a fair contest. And if somebody comes down injured, that's just unfortunate.
Okay.
If you get there late and take somebody out, you've got to be looking at that person.
You got to get your timing right. If you get your timing wrong, then it's your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if your timing's both right, then it's a contest in the air. No problems. I mean, I suppose you could go back to, the classic one was a few years ago. Richard Buckman got the red card under the in the Tupperware container, where basically he effectively arrived. He arrived fractionally late. He always had his eye on the ball. There's no doubt about that. He always had his eye on the ball, but he was just fractionally late, and he effectively put the man in a very dangerous position. He landed on his neck, and red card might have been harsh, but at the end of the day, it's correct that he got penalised in some manner.
I suppose if you're looking
we've
at...
seen it actually has altered how players behave and how they play. And so we aren't seeing as many of these as collisions and players coming down on their necks. That's the whole point of it.
Yep.
Yeah. Players will figure it out. There's too much to lose. You don't go on a report system. It's either an immediate card, depending on the level of the offence.
Yeah.
And to me, there was one harsh one that, again, about 2 or 3 years ago in Super Rugby. It was a rainy day. The player's running in. He realises he's not going to get there, so he tries to stop his boot, and he just keeps sliding. And he's like, "Well, I'm not actually running at this point. Stop."
Yeah.
And he went in and took the player out. And the referees were like, "Yep, it's unintentional, but I'm sorry. The law is if you have contact with a guy, if you're on the ground, you have contact with a guy in the air, and he lands on his neck or head, it's a red card." And yet
So that's a good point, I reckon, to segue onto this one then, is the fact is that we're talking about yellow cards and red cards. So the red card, we as we probably all agree, it can affect the game really quite considerably, right? And sometimes the red card is debatable as to whether it should have been given. So we've heard this one a lot, and I agree with it. So you get a red card, your team goes down for 10 minutes, and then you can bring a replacement player on, and then there's further sanction for the red card player after the game. What are your thoughts on that, as opposed to a team down for 14 men for the rest of the game?
Historically, red cards were for basically fighting, and that was it. It was for some really dangerous play. I mean, going back to when I went out at when sort of Ackford, I think was it Dooley or Ackford got hit by the Argentinian prop and fell over, So back in the day, that's what a red card was for. And if you're going to be stupid enough to actually poleaxe somebody and knock them out, then your team deserves to be down to 14 men. Nowadays, you rarely get a play. We don't get punches very often.
Really get dirty play.
And it's so it's normally for, as you say, contact with a player who then falls badly, or for a high tackle. And generally, those high tackles are when people have got caught off balance, and it's quite often you don't think it's really intentional. And so, as I guess the severity of the severity on the intent side has come down at the professional level, at least, then I'm not too concerned. In the lower levels, where intent might be a bit more dubious, then I'm not so sure about bringing another player on after 10 minutes. As the whole point is to stop. It's to stop that kind of stuff that stops you from going to work on a Monday morning.
So is it something that you can have as a first class level and above type thing, do you think? Or do you think it's difficult to do that?
Well, I think we're getting to the level where the physicality, the performance, the training of professional players means that the game they're playing on a weekend is totally different to a game that the amateur guys are playing on the weekend, and that perhaps we are getting towards the stage where we should have separate laws for professional rugby and for non-professional rugby.
I know from a spectator's point of view, there's always, when there is a red card dished out, there's always a flat field that goes. But some teams will bar up and still play pretty well. If we think back to the second test, the Lions All Blacks last year in Wellington, there was probably no reason why the All Blacks could have actually still won that game. You could arguably say Bowden Barrett knocks over a couple of extra penalties, and that could have been a pretty amazing performance that particular night. But I think in all honesty, the Lions were, regardless of whether the All Blacks were playing with 14 players, I think they were the better team and deserved to win on the night. So for me, I know, but not everybody's the All Blacks. That they'd probably be down to 13 players and they'd still believe they can win that game. I think you could probably throw that on the Crusaders they'd probably have a similar type of mentality. In fact, probably most New Zealand teams. I can remember the Highlanders, Nabura, the winger, taking the ball high in the air and doing a kung fu kick and collecting somebody in the face, and rightly getting a red card. But I can remember listening to an interview the next day that they never thought they could still lose that game, even having lost a guy to a red card. I guess you've just got to bar up sometimes.
So
some teams do.
If you want to go and see that Kung Fu kick, that was Waratahs versus Crusaders, 2018 Super Rugby, and you'll find it on the highlights.
Yep.
It was blatant, yes. But as you say, recently Glasgow beats, I think it was Scarlets or somebody, with 14 men, losing a player within the first 20 minutes or so, I think, from memory. So yeah, it does happen, still, and it does, and it in some ways it makes those wins more heroic.
Yeah, I suppose, when you look at the games that we just talked about, I mean, we can talk about the Highlanders Waratahs game. You're generally talking in those scenarios where the Otago Highlanders the Highlanders Waratahs. I'll get it right in the end. You're generally talking a team that is a couple of notches better than the opposition. If you imagine sort of like there was a red card in the Ireland All Blacks game just recently, where you got two very even teams, you know that a red card's going to have an impact on that game. As much as the All Blacks will bar up, let's say it was them getting a red card, those two teams are very even, and a red card or a yellow card is going to have an impact on the game, whichever way it goes. And that's where, and what Steve alluded to, you name a game, most games where you've seen a red card, you're pretty much, even sitting at home or in the stands in the ground, you go flat, whether you're the opposition or the supporter. There's a sense of, this game's going to go a bit pear-shaped. It might not, but generally that's what Steve sort of alluded to. You do go flat.
You find out a lot about teams, though, I've got to say.
Yeah.
And, you find out
character.
what sort of character, what sort of medal that they got. We think back to the semi-final, Wales-France 2011 at Eden Park when Sam Warburton got sent off. Yep. And that was just unfortunate. I don't think it was deliberate. It was just one of those runs that he just got wrong at the time. But, that probably had a huge effect on that game. I think if he stays on, maybe Wales go on to win that game.
Yep.
Maybe.
I think that
probably
that's the consensus, is that Wales would have done, I think, generally. So we're not
he was
at
the top of the game,
no, but we also are not sure it will change the game that much. We don't see that many red cards. One card law that would change the game dramatically and would stop the All Blacks from giving away easy threes in their own 22, which they are renowned for doing, would be that every fifth penalty equals a yellow card for repeat infringements, rather than making it purely a referee judgment. And we've been talking here that we want consistency. So one way of getting to consistency rather than referees' sort of judgment would be to say, yep, we're going to do away with yellows for multiple infringements, but every fifth penalty is a yellow card. And I think that would cut down the number of penalties.
Anywhere on the field? Or in the red zone? Or where?
Anywhere on the field.
I'm not convinced on that. The reason being is that I just sort of think that there's, I'm watching too much rugby these days where there's generally discussion around it, and so you sort of think you're on the right side of the ledger, is that yellow cards are given when they're not deserved.
I was actually just trying to think of a situation where you're absolutely stuffed, and I just thought of one. If you've got an absolutely dominant scrum, you get a penalty off a dominant scrum. Why would you not put down another 4? Try and milk another 4 penalties on your scrum, if you know what I mean.
Well, we see that already, don't we?
You do, but now you've got an end result of a yellow card as opposed to just getting a 3-point penalty. So generally what's happening now is that you're putting down the scrum to win the penalty. Now you're putting down the scrums to win a yellow card.
Now, we've seen scrums be put down multiple times, especially, it's only within it's only when you're five metres out, admittedly, but they'll put it down multiple times, expecting to either get the pushover penalty try, which will come with the yellow card, or get one of the props yellow carded for multiple infringements. And we see that already. We just don't see it over the rest of the pitch. It's just within that 5 metres.
But now it's down on record, right? Before you were actually hoping that the referee is going to adjudicate that way.
Yep.
When you actually put it down as a definition, and it's just like, now it's part of your game plan to actually just go on the paddock. We know we're going to have a dominant scrum. Let's knock the ball on. Let's intentionally knock the ball on. Let's put a scrum down. Let's get a yellow card ASAP. Because here's the other thing. We get a yellow card ASAP. Dude comes on. Let's do it again, because this time he's going to get a red card because it's the second yellow.
Well, it's hard to... Okay, when it's 5 things, it's hard to target a certain player necessarily. But if you're giving away penalties on your own put-in, then you deserve as many yellow cards as you get. If you're on your own put-in, you should be able to secure the ball and get it out quick. You shouldn't be giving up penalties one after the other on your own put-ins. So deliberately knock it on yourself to create a opportunity to get yellow cards to opposition, I don't think would happen.
Uh-oh.
I reckon. A thought just came to mind. I wonder if we should have a system where you've got players who are sort of recidivist offenders. So, for example, if you've basically given away five penalties, not just in one game, but over a period, maybe you miss a game.
Yeah. That's the old round ball has that sort of thing, don't they? Where if you get X amount of yellow cards over X amount of games, then you get an automatic suspension.
Well, in rugby union, if you get 3 yellows, you have an automatic visit to the citing commission.
I was not aware of that one.
Yeah, but players are also, as much as we spoke about our male colleagues being a little bit slow on the uptake, they're pretty smart as well. They'll know just not to basically milk that system to a point where I think if you had a magic number with a number of penalties, I think then it's clear cut. As far as I'm concerned, you don't need to go to a judiciary. If you've given away 10 penalties in total, you automatically miss a game. You just got to get a bit cleaner.
And
how many games?
The common thread amongst all of these is how do we make the game cleaner so that referees aren't put under as much pressure by players deliberately treating. That's kind of where we're going.
Do you utilise technology a bit better then? We talked about going way back, backing the truck up because we haven't done in the show yet. Beep, 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 beep. I mean, offside line. What's we have the technology. We built the $6 million man a few years ago. We have the technology to put a line across the back of a ruck that says that the players are offside or not.
Yeah, but we're trying to reduce the amount of input from the TML, aren't we?
I don't care. I don't know why. Personally, I'm not. I don't care about input from the TML. I'm more concerned about the correct decision being made.
No, I agree.
TMO's there to rule on the laws of the game, and if he gets it right, unfortunately, sometimes the TMO gets it wrong, which is head scratching. But it's about getting the correct decision.
I suppose a lot sort of came out now. What's the president, Brett Gosper? Obviously there was a directive before the autumn internationals, and I was quite surprised when he basically came out and pretty much said once the autumn internationals had been completed, he wanted to actually see more cards. Did you read that comment?
Yes.
I did, and I thought he was so I don't think there was a directive to have less cards. There was a directive around TMOs, which we discussed last week, or we'll discuss on this week, whichever way around it is. We're time traveling at the moment. Sorry, being a recorded show.
DeLorean.
I think it's out of order when you've got your what is he? Is he CEO or I'm not quite sure because
yes, CEO of World Rugby. Yeah.
Because Beaumont's the chairman, isn't he? So CEO of World Rugby. Look, you've got the various pathways and the various processes to set the laws and to set how the referees do those laws. So use those. Don't be going through the press and saying, "Oh, this isn't what I said." If your subordinates aren't doing what you've asked them to do, then that's your fault for not leading them well. I think it's a bit of a poor for him to come out and say that.
Was there also a little bit of, dare I say it, nepotism there, because he'd seen maybe Owen Farrell hit the Australian lock just before halftime with what appeared to be a shoulder charge, one of those 50-50 ones, and maybe decided to get involved?
Steve, I think through the Autumn Internationals we realised that the way that Owen Farrell tackles people is not illegal, because he obviously did it a few more times and got away with it. So obviously it's a legitimate Owen Farrell tackling technique.
Well, I think in that one he just basically got himself kind of like, I'm going to put myself in the way of this guy to try and stop him, and I'm off. He wasn't in a position to actually do a proper tackle and got himself all the wrong.
Whatever it took.
Just like the week before when he played South Africa.
The South Africa one was kind of like, I've been hit hard, I'm going to put a hard hit on someone else to get some payback. Which yes. And
sorry, this is just funny because I've seen it a few things come through, and it's just like you watch the video of Owen Farrell, and both times he goes down and he's absolutely mortally wounded, and looks at the referee and sees, he's carried on and pops up like a jack in a box.
So he's good actor as well. Good actor, good rugby player. He's learning quick.
There seems to be something about these fly halves, because Sexton's also one that will throw his hands up in the air and suddenly jump up as soon as though he's okay. Both of them have a bit about that about them.
Okay.
So a different law that's not so much around about the trying to reduce the amount of cheating, but one around trying to reduce the amount of players and more about player welfare. And this is the opposite direction that Rapid Rugby is going. So Rapid Rugby is going to have basically rolling substitutions. I'm suggesting we should go the other way, and the fact that you should only be able to do 3 substitutions from your bench of 7 players, so that we don't automatically. So we actually have props and hookers who are conditioned to play 80 minutes. We have scrum halves who are conditioned to play 80 minutes, rather than just conditioned to play. I mean, not so much on the scrum half side, but on the props and this front row side, players that are conditioned to play 80 minutes, not 60, and therefore they're not quite as big and they're not quite as doing as much damage. Now, I know, Stephen, when I kind of mentioned this one to you off air, you weren't a big fan of this one.
Yeah, I quite like the way it is at the moment, because it's now become a 23-man game, and if you've got real impact off their bench, it means that you can it's sort of like having your cake and eating it as well, because there's so many good players around, and some guys are just made to come off the bench. We saw that a few years ago when Barrett was coming off the bench, Savia was coming off the bench. That's about the only thing I can really think of. Originally I used to have that train of thought, because I always liked the fact that a team that had put in the work fitness-wise would basically outlive any team. I think Ashwin had realised that's pretty much how the Auckland team of the 80s pretty much got past everybody. They were fitter. I just can't think of the Scottish guy who was their trainer at the time. Jim Blair. He had this. He probably was a man before his time. He probably had the Auckland guys professionally trained even before professional rugby came around. He taught guys how to run and how to actually stay on the field for 80 minutes. So before the game sort of went to this 23-man game, I probably would have gone along with you, Paul, but I think it's one of those ones where the actual where as the truck is backed up, I think the truck is well and truly shot down the highway with this one.
Ashwin,
I was just I'm actually in a little bit in Paul's camp. Not necessarily with the way that his sort of way of working it. That's not a bad way, but I'm not sure that's going. But I'd like to see teams fatigued. I'd like to see teams fatigued to then open up the game, but also the world class players, the goats of the world, perform when the rest of the team's fatigued, because it's, like we just alluded to, one of the things of that Auckland team of that late 80s, early 90s is their fitness was so superior that you make mistakes when you're fatigued. And obviously, it's how you prepare to handle that fatigue and how you perform under fatigue. That sort of as part of your game. So I would like to see that. I'm probably getting a sore bottom because I'm sitting on the fence, because I'm going to say this is but what Steve's saying about the new dynamic of the game with a 23-man squad, game day, not just the squad, but game day, is also fantastic because it changes the game plan. You go into a game plan which is X for your starting, and for your last 30, you flip it on its head, or just change it something, whatever it is. You bring these players on, they're going to play a different game plan. So you get, there's that too.
And that off the bench is a real talking point. How often have we heard supporters, commentators basically say we either got some impact off the bench or we didn't? It's just got that other dynamic for me. It's got a bit of merit, Paul, but once again, you're going to have to sell that to the masses.
The other one, though, the other side of it, this is also if we're talking is props. There's twice as many caps available to props as there are to outside centres. So, is it fair that we have these props, these 50, 60 cap props, who have never played more than 20 minutes of a game in their life at international level? Are we cheapening the jersey as well by that, or actually should we have space for three backs to be replaced as well?
No, listen, I haven't got an issue with it. I know a few All Blacks that have played 5 minutes for the All Blacks, but they're still All Blacks at the end of the day. And whether you've run out in 30 games and only played 20 minutes, it's sort of not about the minutes. It's about you are actually selected for that particular team. It's a little bit like the Olympian that gets selected to go away to the Olympics. He may have just got a personal best, and he goes to the Olympics, and sometimes they don't even do their personal best. But you know what? They're still an Olympian.
And he still gets the McNuggets at the Olympic Village.
Absolutely.
Hey, look,
I
totally agree in the fact that I don't really care about the caps. When Richie McCaw gets 150 caps, I know that he's earned those 150 caps, and he's a special player. We know Kiwi go over the mark of the 100 caps. But how many of those caps at the end were 5 minutes off the bench? But but at the end of the day, Kiwi was still a fantastic player and one of the stars that we'll remember for a long time.
Tell you what,
Nathan Harris gets to 50 caps.
Wow! Look, how many caps he's got at the moment? One thing I will say with Kevin Mialamu, he could have walked away from New Zealand rugby multiple times, but he actually hung in there, knowing that he was still going to be coming off the bench, or he was going to be second string to whomever at the time.
Yep. And when you're on the bench, you don't know whether you're coming on for 5 minutes at the end or 5 minutes gone. So you still got to be prepared to play. You got to be prepared to play a standard full 80-minute game or a dynamic, add a real massive impact 20 minutes game. There is, if you're going to play 80, you're not going to go hard out of the blocks and just go and go and go. You're going to wear yourself out pretty quickly unless you're something special.
You could arguably say there's some guys that have been maybe fortunate to have made the All Blacks, shall we say? And like I say, they're drinking from a well that I've not drunk out of. But we could probably save that for another show, and it'll probably take 3 shows to decipher who was very lucky and who was unlucky.
and time sometimes makes those pundits eat their words. I mean, Cody Taylor was supposed to be a one cap wonder with his Fiji Fiji test, but That didn't eventuate by any stretch of the imagination. And he was only there apparently because the Highlanders and the Crusade and the Hurricanes were playing in the final. No.
Steve, Fats should have always got a black jersey, eh?
Yep. They're very, very unlucky at the time. I mean to say, probably even, dare I say it, Frank Bunce, before he actually played for Samoa, should have probably been an All Black before he played for Samoa. Very unlucky.
Yep.
Well, boys, I think we're there. So I don't think we actually agreed on any particular law that we should bring in, which probably it gives you an indication as to how difficult it is for the Laws Committee to change things and to improve them, as we've gone through a whole bunch of different things here. Some of them are a bit more out there than others, but yeah, a few in there. So it's Merry Christmas from me, and Stephen, thank you for being on the show.
No, not a problem at all. Been a pleasure.
Ashwin, thank you for joining us.
No worries, and it's Merry Christmas from him.
And yes, as always, subscribe up there. There's 2 videos up there that you'll enjoy if you want to have some more Christmas watching. And thank you very much for joining us. And we'll be back next week on New Year's Day.